All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Today we are going to be continuing on with our Torah portion. We've been looking at the triennial Torah portion. We are in the second year and the 43rd week of the triennial Torah portion, which brings us to Leviticus 24. Look at the 24th chapter of Leviticus. Also want to look at some things in the 7th chapter of John. A few things we'll look at there. But we want to, let's see, begin. Let me just look there. We want to begin by having this. Can you read the 24th chapter of Leviticus nice and loud so that everyone is able to hear?
And Yahweh
24. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil, olive beaten from the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually. Without the veil of the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation shall Aaron order it from the evening unto the morning before Yahweh continually. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. He shall order the lamps upon the pure candlestick before Yahweh continually. And thou shalt take fine flour and bake 12 cakes thereof. 2/10 deals shall be in one cake, and thou shalt set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, upon the pure table before Yahweh. And thou shalt put pure frankincense upon each row, that it may be on the bread for a memorial, even an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. Every Sabbath he shall set it in order before Yahweh continually, being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons, and they shall eat it in the holy place, for it is most holy unto him of the offerings of Yahweh made by fire by the perpetual statute. And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel. And this son of the Israelitish woman and the man of Israel strove together in the camp. And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of Yahweh and cursed. And they brought him unto Moses, and his mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri, and of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in ward, that the mind of Yahweh might be showed them.
Showed.
And then, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Bring forth him that hath cursed without the camp, and let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him. Ooh. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Whosoever curseth Elohim shall bear his sin, and that blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well the stranger, as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, shall be put to death. And he that killeth any man shall be surely put to death. And he that killeth a beast shall make it good beast for beast. And if a man cause a blemish in his neighbor, as he hath done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as he hath caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again. And he that killeth a beast, he shall restore it, and he that killeth a man, he shall be put to death. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. For I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And Moses spake to the children of Israel that they should bring forth him that had cursed out of the camp, and they stoned him with stones. And the children of Israel did as Yahweh commanded Moses.
Okay. So, going back, when we look at the beginning, back to the beginning of the chapter there, let's see. In verse 2, command you sons of Israel, command the sons of Israel that they bring you clear oil from beaten olives. King James says pure oil, olive, beaten. And looking out there in the Hebrew is Shemen, Zayot, Kateet, which is basically oil, Shemen, olives, Zayot, Kateet, or pressed or beaten. When we look at looking at a couple of these words here, Shemen, which is translated as oil, gives you the idea of grease or richness, fat, yes. We think about fat. Of course, we think about some undesirable thing, which I guess aesthetically, I guess fat is bad. But in terms of it, when you think about what it is, it's the abundance of something, right? Which that's where you get the idea of just richness, right? The word shaman also means to shine, or oily. You know, kind of how, when it's real cold outside, sometimes we sit up there and grandma or somebody used to shine your face up with some Vaseline or something. back in the day, right, where he was just real shiny and oily, right? But this word here, Shemen, is oil. Again, it has the idea of richness, shiny, oily, fat. The word for olive basically means olive. According to Strong's, it has in its definition as yielding, illuminating oil, as if the word here is connected to, using it, the olive, for the purposes of, a fuel, right? And which is what we see here in Leviticus. And then Kateet, pressed, which is how the oil is extracted from the olives. It's the process upon which how the oil is, taken out. It's translated as beaten in the King James, or pressed. That word can mean bruise, to violently strike, to beat down to pieces, to destroy, discomfit, or smite. So when we look at the oil, that was used as the fuel for the menorah, it was this oil that came out from beating, from bruising, from crushing. I don't know if did you show the kids the video?
I didn't show it to them yet.
When you make olives, you basically olive oil, right? You can't. Y'all makes the olives, we can make the olive oil, right? It's from crushing, it's from beating, it's from pressure. So, as we begin to look at the thing that this is being used for, the menorah, the oil that lights the menorah, we see that this oil that is to be brought comes from beating. It comes from bruising. It comes from destroying, discomfort, right? When we think about us as being light, showing forth the light of Messiah, that process inside of us takes for us to be able to beat down our outer layers, right? In order for us to show forth that internal force, that internal fuel that lights the light, which is the oil, it's necessary to have the external shell to be crushed, to be discomfited, right? To come out of our physical comfort zone, discomfort, smite, beat down to pieces the external shell, your carnality, right?
Flesh.
Those things that are connected to your physicalness. We look at Romans. First Corinthians. I said Romans. Actually, First Corinthians.
First Corinthians.
That'd be Second Corinthians.
All right.
Wait a second. I was just looking at this a second ago.
Yeah, you're looking for 1 Corinthians 9, verse 20.
9.
1 Corinthians 9.
Yeah. 24. 1 Corinthians 9:24 says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receives a prize. So run that you may obtain. As every man that strives for the mastery
9.
is temperate."
1
1 Corinthians 9:24. I'm at 25 now. "And every man that strives for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible prize or corruptible crown, but we are incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I not as one that beats the air, but I keep," 27, verse 27, "but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be cast away." So Paul here, in an effort,
What's verse 27?
verse 20.
In King James, because I have a different translation.
Oh, King James says, "But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway." So Paul there is alluding to the fact that if he allows his body to rise up, if he allows his outer layer to rule, he himself could be a castaway. Paul. So what he does in order to combat that is what? Keeping his body under and bringing it into subjection, destroying his body, beating it down.
Mine, verse 27 says literally bruise, that buffet my body or bring my body under.
Yeah, beat it down, to bruise.
To bruise it.
Yeah. Which is what we see over here with this Kateet. Kateet is to bruise.
That's what
violently
they did.
strike.
And that's what they did with the olives to make the oil.
So when we think about the idea of having our spirit man be manifest, when we think about the idea of fueling the light that we are to shine, the thing that we ought to be doing is, beating down that flesh. All right. Okay, so we learned that from Leviticus 24, when we see the fuel for the menorah that was brought was this pure, clear oil from beaten olives, right? It's giving us the picture as the light, how we too are to be fueled, right? By beating down that flesh, by snuffing out that carnal mind and allowing that pure, clean oil, that richness to be manifest, right?
I think that if anyone wants to see that video, you should share the video, because it's kind of amazing how you start.
I have no idea how to get back to that. I didn't save it.
You sent it to me.
Oh.
Send me a link. I don't know if it was a link on Facebook or not. But it's like you start with these olives and you just see these, they have machines pressing it. They didn't have people doing it. But you see these machines like pressing the olives down. Hiskey will show it to you this week in school. And they press the olives and then like this oil, starts coming out. Like this liquid starts coming out. And it's like really crazy just how much liquid could come out of those olives. But you guys just keep putting the pressure on it. And then they literally had them in drums where they was putting pressure on them like over time, like kind of weighing down on them and putting pressure on them to bring all the oil out. And it's just interesting to see that process, especially when you think about it from the scriptural standpoint, that this is what we're supposed to be. Sometimes the pressure gotta be put on us.
Well, you saying sometimes?
Well, the pressure gotta be put on us, right, to get that fatness out.
Yeah, that's the key here. Is that when we look at this thing that's going on here with this light, that, by the way, was to burn continually. It wasn't supposed to go out. They had to go and get this oil in order to let the menorah burn continually. They had to always have this oil. So when we think about what that oil can represent for us, that beaten oil, right? That fuel to light our lights. We think about the light and what that represents in us. It's the manifestation of Yeshua, right? But in order for Yeshua to be manifest, right, the thing that Paul was bringing out, the way that Yeshua is manifest is by beating down that flesh, by not giving in to our carnal mind and our carnal appetites, not letting our lives be ruled and run by our carnality, but by our spirituality. But again, when we look back at Leviticus and we see this key ingredient to the menorah was this clear oil from beaten olives. So
then they had to filter the oil too, man. So it's clear. Like strain it.
I don't know what the process was. I think clear is pure, which will probably have more to do with being unadulterated as opposed to being like clear, like what you're thinking about is strained. Let's see. What does your version say, clear?
What verse is it?
2.
I wasn't in here when you was reading it. It says here, command the sons of Israel that they bring you clear oil from beaten olives for the light, to make a lamp burn continually. All right, okay.
That word zak is pure or clean. I don't think it's necessarily strained like what you're thinking of, clear. but more of the idea of being pure. Or again, we think about pureness, we think about wholeness, clean, pure. It comes from the word to mean transparent or clean or pure. Translucent, innocent. But I guess it's not necessarily wrong necessarily to think about it in that context of being filtered out. Because when you're filtering something, you're just kind of eliminating those things that you don't want in there. So the thought process is it's good.
But you're not going to apply any heat or anything. It's going to be in its right compounds and its right, you know what I mean? It's not gonna be
right. So
it's not gonna be
so
man altered.
When you think about the process that you make oils, cooking and heating will be part of it, but this pure beaten style is only dealing with the pressure. That's the thing that makes it is the pressure, not the heat, but the pressure. Okay, again, so looking back at Leviticus 24, dealing with this light that was for the menorah, that was to burn continually. This, when we see in verse 3, outside the veil of testimony in the tent of meeting, Aaron shall keep it in order from evening to morning before Yahweh continually. It always burned. It burned continually. And this shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations. You'll always be doing it throughout all of your generations. So as long as you keep on reproducing yourselves, right, you'll always be doing this. So when we think about this idea of this light burning continually, of course, we think about the fact that, again, this is the menorah, right? This is the menorah. They took in order to make the menorah, they made the menorah out of what?
Gold.
Pure gold, right? The menorah was pure gold. They didn't take different chunks and kind of piece them together, but they took one piece of gold and formed it into the menorah, right? But it was this pure gold. So when we look at this parts of the tabernacle that and their different things that they represent. When you look at pure gold, like for instance, the Ark of the Covenant, the box was made of wood and it was covered with gold. And then the lid, the mercy seat, was pure gold.
The box was acacia.
The box was wood covered with gold, but the lid, the mercy seat, was pure gold. And as well as the menorah was pure gold. So when we think about the parts and the pieces, the pure gold, something that was pure gold, gives us the thought of Yeshua. Think about Yeshua when we think about the parts that were just pure gold, right? Not the wood covered with gold, but nothing but gold. So the menorah, here's what we're looking at here, this pure gold gives us this idea of Yeshua. It typifies Yeshua. We think about his character and we think about his attributes. The menorah was the candlestick. It was the thing that made the light. The menorah was the thing that provided the light in a place where there was no natural light. When we look at the tabernacle, the menorah was in that holy place, which was covered, by a door.
The door. You mean the door?
Give that book to me.
Well, it
The
wasn't a
outside.
little. I'm saying a door, but it was a
tent
flap. It was an opening. But there wasn't any natural light in there, as opposed to the place outside of that, which wasn't covered. It was open there. But this part, inside of the holy place, there was no light. It didn't naturally go in there. So light had to be made inside of there. So again, this is a place where there was light, where there was no natural light there.
And that was from that candlestick.
That was from the candlestick. So when we think about Yeshua, we think about the spirit, we think about the character of Yahweh and his character and his attributes that he puts inside of us via his Ruach HaKodesh. It does the same thing that the menorah did for the tabernacle. It brings light to a place where there is no light. When we look at man outside of Yeshua, we look at man outside of the character of Yahweh, you're looking at a place where there is no light. If we look back and think about the fall of man, the separation of Yahweh from his creation. We think about Yahweh, who's the father of light. And we think about man, who was created in his image. At that time, at that instant, that sin came into the situation. There became a separation from man and his father. Man saw at that time that he was naked. I like to think that Adam and Hava were illuminated.
Yeah, shiny. You ever hear that, Ian? About Adam and Hava being shiny?
I like to think that Adam and Hava were illuminated until sin came into the situation. But be that as it may, it's not hard to think about man in his fallen state and consider him to be without light. If we look at Deuteronomy 28 and 29. Deuteronomy 28.
28 verse 29? Or?
Yes. Chapter 28, verse 29. Says, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropes in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Yes. Okay, so when we think about the idea of groping at noonday, that word noonday is giving you the idea of light, or even maximum light, whenever the sun is at its highest point, right? Whenever the sun is at its highest point, these people who have transgressed the law of Yahweh and received the curses of Yahweh as a result of transgressing Yahweh, groping at noonday, right? And blind as the blind gropes in darkness. So in in the day's highest point, the part of the day when there is the most light, these people that are accursed of Yahweh are blinded, right? Because they are void. They're void of light. They need some light to come to them because they have no natural light of themselves, right? When we look at, we see the same thing, the same idea in Job. Look at Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12, verse 25. Yeah.
They groped in darkness with no light, and he made them stagger like a drunken man.
Yeah. So that word there is actually translated as light. There, another place we saw that it was noonday, which just gives you the idea of light. But still, you dealing with those that in their blindness, in their separation from uprightness, they're not able to see and are acting as if they are in darkness, right? Because we see that there is definitely a connection between rightness and lightness and unrightness and darkness.
I was looking at 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 29 last night.
What does that say?
For thou art my lamp, O Yahweh, and Yahweh illumines my darkness.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
yes, that's very good.
So it's kind of like, we don't have Yahweh or in darkness.
Right, because we don't even really want to just think about the fact that saying Yahweh, you're my light, but there's these other lights that I could use instead of Yahweh, but Yahweh is the light, right? Without Yahweh, you're actually in darkness. Without the Most High, you're actually in darkness. So it's good that we see over there. Who's that? David talking about that?
Yeah, that was.
The fact that Yahweh he actually made Yahweh his light.
Mm-hmm.
Because outside of the light of Yahweh, we are in darkness. And we look to the to Revelation, where he talks about the new heavens and the new earth, where things everything is restored back to the original plan and the way of actually dwelling with the Most High, where there's no more need for the sun. Some people bring up the idea of it's actually saying need for the sun, as if the sun is still there, but you don't need it. I like to think that it's not even there. Like, what's the point of it being there if the light of Yahweh is the thing that is illuminating everything, right?
Or that the light of Yahweh overshadows the light of the sun.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even notice the light of the sun because the light of Yahweh is so bright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we think about this idea of this menorah, again, the menorah representing Yahweh, representing Yeshua, and that light, when Yeshua talks to his disciples in Matthew chapter 5, 14 through 16, where he says, "You are the light of the world. It's impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. On a lampstand, kind of like a menorah, which was a lampstand. Right?
One says candlestick.
Candlestick, yeah, same thing. And it shines to all those in the house. That your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in the heavens." Right? So the way that the light is shown is by the doing of the good works and the praise of your Father. Right? The praising of the Father and the doing of good works, the manifestation of the character of Yahweh is how the light is shined. So how is that come about? Is by, again, the walking in the Spirit, the destroying or the beating down of the flesh to bring forth that beaten oil, to stir up that spirit that's inside of you, to cause that to burn and light your soul, right? To cause you to move according to the spirit that's inside of you. Right? So we can see the connection between, that's made between light and the character of Yahweh and the law of Yahweh, law, statutes, Yahweh's law, statutes, and commandments is Torah, which is a lamp to my feet. Right? What does it say in Psalms 119, 105? 119, 105. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Right? The law of Yahweh lightens my path. It causes me to be able to walk and not stumble. Right? And when I have that light, I'm able to look and see the path. I'm able to know where I'm going. I'm able to see all of the obstacles that are in my way. I'm able to get around those things because I have light, right? And what's the light? The word of Yahweh. What's the word of Yahweh? The Torah. What is the Torah? The character of Yahweh humanized, right? His character and his attributes being manifest through your deeds and actions. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts or comments concerning the light, the oil, the burning, before we look at something else?
I was thinking about just how tall the lampstand was, and just how big it was, and it's not like some little tiny light that was in the tabernacle.
It was a huge light.
It was a huge light, and just how we're supposed to be. We're in this dark place, and so our light shouldn't be this little tiny light that people can't really notice. If they sit there and treat you like you're one of them, or you're part, you're in darkness, then that means that you're not really exhibiting the character of Yahweh and that spirit that's inside of you in a way that's really, showing forth his glory.
Yeah.
It wasn't, what was it, set up? Like, I got the book out because I was going to see how tall it was exactly. It says it in that book there.
I don't know if it tells you in that book or not.
I know it was more than 4 feet tall.
I know that we have that Strong's book in there that talks about the different implements. At least from Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple, the menorah had to be carted around. It was big. It wasn't like what we have in there, sitting on a mantelpiece. It wasn't something that you could just take and stick in a bag or something. It was literally a piece of furniture that needed to be carried by carted around. It was this big, huge thing. So yeah, when you think about it, we'll look later at Yeshua in John chapter 7. That kind of talks about this idea more. But indeed, when we think about the idea of being light, we think about the idea of burning continually. We think about the idea of it not being kind of something that's obscure, but something that's apparent. Your light. Something that's obvious, right? You're obviously a light burning. That's what this is. We think about the kind of the spiritual application of this beaten olives producing this oil that's producing this light that's burning continually. This is a continual process. It's a continual process of destroying our outer shell. It's a continual process of allowing the spirit of Yahweh to be the force that rules us, and not our appetites, and not our carnal mind, and not our fleshly desires. Because when we get into our fleshly desires, we're not being led by the light. We're not being led by the word of Yahweh. We're being led by our appetites, by our soul, by our desires, things that we want. Most times the things that your flesh is wanting and desiring and pulling you to do is something altogether different than what this spirit of Yahweh is desiring and pulling for you to do. And again, if we're going to spiritualize verse 2 of Leviticus chapter 24, that's going to be dealing with the destruction of our carnal mind. Okay. Let's look down at verse. Unless anybody has any thoughts or questions or comments in regards to the bread, I want to go down to verse 10. verse 10.
Well, other than the fact that, yeah, no. I mean, all these things, like, you know, I always thought they just put the bread out on the table, but how it was like, you know, put it on the table in stacks.
Yeah.
You know, stacked up on top of each other.
2 rows.
2 rows of
6.
6. Yeah.
With frankincense on each row.
Mm-hmm. That's why I
don't
got
ever think about frankincense and eating it.
Yeah.
When they ate the bread,
Yeah.
that kind of flavor, aroma of frankincense had to get on the bread. I don't know how it didn't. Is that something that you could use as a spice? Frankincense?
I think if it's in its pure state.
It's just resin, right?
Yeah, it's just a resin. Let me see.
But are resins naturally produced?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something that comes from concentration? I don't know that. To me, when I think about frankincense, I don't think about like something that I would be eating.
It says here that it's edible and is used in traditional medicines in Africa and Asia for digestion and healthy skin.
Okay. Just need to give me some food grade.
It has to be, yeah, you can't just
food grade.
It can't be like frankincense oil you put on your skin.
No, not like what I got upstairs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's look at verse 10, where it says, now the son of an Israelite woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the sons of Israel, and an Israelite woman's son of a man of Israel struggled with each other in the camp. The son of the Israelite woman blasphemed the name and cursed. Okay, first of all, when we look at this, when we look at this and we think about the fact that we know of people who want to sit up here and talk, like even just yesterday, somebody had put on something about mixing of tribes. And it's just so frustrating because, first of all, you don't even know what tribe you even belong to in the first place. First of all.
It's just carnal.
How? Like, how do you even know to even bring up whether you should be doing it or not? Whether you even actually fit in to a specific tribe to begin with, let alone trying to mix or what have you. But when we look in Leviticus chapter 24, we see within Israel we have an Israelitish woman who has an Egyptian husband.
Why did that person have to be the one that did the blasphemy?
I don't know. He probably got some bad ideas from his daddy. And he's sitting over there talking with somebody who's the son of an Israelite. And they get to fussing about whatever they fussing about. And then the stranger, the foreigner, right? The one who was a foreigner who was among Israel, right? Is a perfect example of a foreigner that's among Israel, which would be what he is, right? He's not connected to the tribes because he's a son of an Egyptian. He's married to an Israelite woman, but he travels along with them, with Israel, functioning as an Israelite, and definitely fitting into that category of a stranger or a foreigner, right? Blasphemes, right? We think about blaspheming, just in the English, the word blaspheme, to speak. The word blaspheme here. Let's see what it says here. To speak of the supreme being in terms of impious irreverence, to revile or speak reproachfully of Elohim or the Holy Spirit. What Webster says, to speak evil of or to utter abuse, to speak reproachfully of, blasphemy. When we think about this word here in Leviticus, the word is nakab. Nakab. Means to puncture. Macabre means to puncture. To puncture with holes. But also, I'm thinking about the other word. Right, so when we think about this idea of blaspheming, that's translated in the English as blaspheming, and the Hebrew word means to puncture. This is something that according to the little story that's going on here, the account, the foreigner, the stranger, poked holes in the name of Yahweh. Right? You can't literally poke holes in a name, right? But in terms of, figuratively, or to pierce. He's figuratively piercing the name of Yahweh. This word has the idea of perforate. Perforating. It's spelled perforate. Perforate. That's why I spelled it wrong. P-E-R. Think about something that's perforated. You think about like a piece of paper that got the little lines on it, makes it easy to tear. Right? If something's perforated, it's made easy to tear. It's made easy to come apart. If you have something that is supposed to be something that's firm, you have something that's supposed to be strong, if you have something that's supposed to be mighty, it would be something that's bad to make that strong, firm, mighty thing easy to come apart. But that's what that word nakab is, to puncture, right? So they're blaspheming the name of Yahweh. Let's look at. Let's see.
Is it like attack?
It could be. It definitely would be something that was attack. If I'm saying that Yahweh's name is mighty, and you're saying that is, some abominable thing, that would be you poking it, right? That would be you trying to puncture the name. If I want to sit up here and speak about the Yahweh's name being a strong tower, right, that the righteous run unto, and you want to sit up here and talk about it being some kind of pagan thing that the Masoretes came up with, like people do. That's blaspheming the name of the Most High. You just poked a hole in it. You punctured it. You took this firm thing, and you're trying to make perforations in it. I want to look at. Let me just see this real quick. Proverbs.
Mama.
11:26. Proverbs 11:26 says, "He that withholds corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that sells it." I guess curse there is our word nakab. Which it gives you almost the same kind of here when we look at this in Leviticus, where it says that the son blasphemed the name and cursed, where it's giving you two things that he done. He blasphemed. He not only blasphemed the name, but he also cursed. And we don't mean like he said like a swear word, right? He didn't like cuss. Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of two sides of the same offense: blaspheming and cursing. Blaspheming the name and cursed. But I'm just saying that just to say, when you look at Proverbs 11:26, where that word is translated as curse. The one who withholds corn, that person needs to be perforated.
It needs to be poked.
Right. Okay, so the thing about the idea of blaspheming the name, or perforating it, or penetrating it, or taking this thing that is strong and mighty and powerful, and causing there to be holes in it, perforating, causing it to be easily ripped apart. Okay. He not only did that, but he also cursed. He also cursed. That word is kalal. That word is kalal. Kalal, which means to be light. To be light. Not like what we just was talking about, but like the opposite of heavy.
purify of faith, make bright.
So, things that we can think about when we look at this word kalal is the idea of a diminishing of substance. So to diminish substance. Diminish substance. To lessen material things.
Make some
Okay, so when we think about Yahweh, when we think about the character of Yahweh, we think about the presence of Yahweh. We think about his presence. We think about kavod, which is weight, which is heavy, right? So if I say that Yahweh's whose presence is heavy, then I say that there's weight to it, and then you come along and try to make it light, right? You try to diminish his substance, right? You try to lessen his essence. That's what we see going on here with this blaspheming and this cursing. He probably heard about the gods of his father, right? He had an Egyptian father, right? He probably heard about the gods of his father and was saying, man, your God is this and that. Look at my God. I remember my dad talking to me about, this God or that God or whatever he might have potentially had said. But in doing that, right, you're making light or diminishing the substance of Yahweh. When we look at the ancient Kalal in the ancient, we have the Kuf, which is the gathering of light at the horizon or condensing or concentration. Right? You have this concentration or this condensing coming together, like a condensing. And then here we have the Lamed, which is the shepherd's staff. So, and we have this 2 times. So we have the idea of the shepherd's staff, the gathering or the condensing of the shepherd. Right, the shepherd, when he traveled lightly. Right, he couldn't carry a whole bunch of stuff, right? Because he got to go around, and he probably only had like a little sack in his shepherd's staff, right? But in the idea of this kalal, we had the idea of making light, of causing something that is heavy and making it to be light, to taking away all of the if you're traveling light, right, you're not going to take everything. You're going to take what is always there and take away from it and just have like a bare minimal. But it's a stripping down of things to make it to be something lesser.
So that's like if the two staffs saying like dividing something up amongst two, or
I don't know if you can. Well, I mean, you could maybe look at it like that, but typically when you're looking at these letters and it just happens to be 2 of them, it kind of just gives you more. This kind of increases the idea. It increases the idea of whatever we have here. So this, of course, being the shepherd's staff, when we're thinking about the shepherd, when we think about all the things that go along with the shepherd and his duties, which is carrying out his duties by having a staff in the first place, where that's where we get this idea of being light. Not light as in not heavy. So when we think about this in the idea of being a curse, we're taking away from, this guy is taking away from the heaviness that's associated with the creator of heaven and earth. He's taken away from the weight of the Most High. He's taken away from it, and he's puncturing it.
Because the word weight means glory as well.
Right. So he's removing his presence. He's removing his weight. He's removing his glory. He's punching holes in his mightiness and his strength and his abilities. It don't tell us how he did it. It just says that he did it. And then it tells us that at the end of the day, he was killed as a result of it. So thinking about this idea of blaspheming against the Most High's name, and cursing him, and we look at the Torah and see that this is a something that's punishable by death and stoning. I wonder what that causes us to think about in terms of staying away from such things, in terms of making light of the substance of Yahweh. How can we diminish the substance of Yahweh's name? How can we make the Most High's name his glory, his substance, his renown? How do we make it light? I think we should know how we make it light so we don't do it.
by talking against them.
Yeah.
I was looking at this and I was thinking how sometimes we get angry and we say things that we shouldn't say, and then you can't take it back. This is this thing that wherever they got into an argument about, they was drawn into that particular situation and caused, I don't know, did they both get murdered, stoned to death, or just was the one?
Yeah, it was the one who did it.
So and that was the Israelite that did it.
No, well, it was the foreigner.
The foreigner. Okay, the foreigner who got stoned. The foreigner.
The one that was the son of the Israelite woman.
Oh, who had the Israelite?
Who had the Egyptian
son.
Daddy.
Dad. Okay.
So would have been a foreigner. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. How we get drawn into things, and then the argument occurs, and even not knowing Yahweh himself. So we had to know the statutes, I think, or follow or be in obedience to it. Then we would not be breaking down what he's saying, like this thing that just happened, making light of who God is and not following his commandments.
So we could look at this and put this back up there with the other piece in terms of beating down that olive to get that pure oil. In terms of, we could say, well, this person here, right? If we want to talk about them being in the heat of something, allowed their emotions and the feelings of what was going on to cause them to lose that self-restraint,
Right.
and that temperance that
Right.
should be present if we in the spirit,
Mm.
right? So, and then that happened, and then you can't undo it. You
Mhm.
can't unring the bell.
Right.
You can't make the thing disappear that you had already manifest.
Right. And I believe if they had kept it among themselves, the fight, but some kind of way they threw Yahweh in it,
know, it just
went too far.
They went crazy.
Exactly. And the words just start slinging. Because if they were just fighting among themselves, they could have broke that up and just separated them. But this was just one step too far.
So we also see, so when we look at this, we see an example of where we actually need the spirit and the strength that the spirit provides us to be able to use discretion and to be able to have that fruit of the spirit, that self-control, that when we look at, Yeshua said, out of the abundance of the heart does the mouth speak, right? So we don't always say necessarily what is in our heart until you get all kind of worked up with emotion, and then stuff kind of just
spill out.
Yeah, be said, right? Where we have to be able to, at all times, it doesn't matter what the situation is, we have to be able to allow for that outer layer to be pressurized, and to be able to not let that our flesh and our carnality rise up to the place where we lose control and stop doing those things which are proper, right? Because it gets us to a place where nobody's getting stoned in 2018. Nobody's getting stoned, but you're still able to put something out in the atmosphere that can never be reversed.
All right, come here.
It can never be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have to be able to see that, not like we're fearful of death, when things are spoken, but at the same time, we should have that kind of that thought in our mind that once these things are spoken, you can't take it back. It can't be taken back. Now this, when we're talking about in terms of Yahweh, in terms of blaspheming the name of Yahweh, it really takes you being in a place where you're not really fully understanding who Yahweh is to even get you to the place where you're doing that in the first place. Nobody who actually knows who Yahweh is, nobody who actually has a real relationship with Yahweh can do that. I don't see how you can. You have to be lacking in some kind of understanding as to who Yahweh is.
Or got some mental illness going on.
Try to poke holes in, huh?
Or got some mental illness going on.
Yeah.
To speak crazy against something like that, knowing his destruction. I mean, especially after the things they had already seen.
Right. And then, you know, looking back at, you know, the ancient Israel, you know, we're always able to see evidences that the new covenant needs to come. It needed to come because we see these examples over and over again of people who've seen these miraculous things. They've seen these wondrous things. Like he's seen his father's gods destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still he decided to think that it was something that he needed to be doing by poking holes in and making light of the name of the one who was actually victorious
Their gods
over those other Egyptian gods.
Yes.
So even though he saw those things with his physical eyes, it wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough.
Mm-mm. Because his heart was not penetrated.
Right, his heart wasn't changed.
Mm-mm.
Because the old covenant don't change your heart.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't change your heart. The new covenant,
yes,
what Yeshua has done for us,
yes,
changes our heart.
Hallelujah.
It takes us from a place that leans on our own
Yes.
strength
Thank you.
and takes us away from our own strength and ability to be able to do something that seems like you should. It makes sense. You should be able to just do it.
Yeah.
But we're at the end of the day, we're powerless.
Yes.
We're powerless to our carnal mind and our appetites. And it didn't matter that this guy sat up here and seen the mighty works of the Most High. It didn't matter that he saw it. He wasn't transformed internally. So he still was able to sit up here and do this egregious thing.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at what Yeshua talks about, where is that at? Let me see. This is let me see what Mark.
And then not only that, I mean, I find so horrendous for me is that when whoever heard this had to go stone them.
Yeah.
Like,
all the people that heard it, they was involved in it.
Exactly.
You know, that's another thing. It just made me think about. It just made me think about the fact that, you know, how many times do we like see something happen and know that there's something wrong with it, but don't do nothing about it.
Right.
Like part of this whole situation, part of justice being served was every single person that seen that thing happen. They was the ones who was doing the stoning.
Mm-hmm.
They was the one that was executing the judgment. The ones who actually witnessed all of this.
Right.
But how many times do we sit up here and we witness things that we know that there's a serious problem with?
Right.
But
don't do nothing.
We're not part of the solution.
Right. Now too that we have the internet, they see things wrong and now they're clicking pictures and sending it to everybody. You know, they don't stop the fight or the stoning or the killing. They just click pictures as though this is normal and send them out. You know, watching a murder take place and taping it. Just like the two boys that allowed their friend to drown and was asking for help. And they sitting there laughing. I don't know if y'all seen that was last summer. The three young men were out together and they went out in this river that they shouldn't have been in. One of their friends were drowning. And they was like, yeah, you shouldn't have went out there. He said specific things. And literally watched this man beg for mercy, asked them to help him pull him back in. And they wouldn't do it. And they didn't even go to jail because they said, the judge said they didn't have to save him. That was not their job. They could have, out of the kindness of their heart, they should have went out there, but it was not nowhere in the law that said that they had to go out there and rescue this young man. that they literally wash drown and put it on YouTube. Even on the Facebooks and stuff now, you see fights and stuff that's out there. Even grown-ups out there taking pictures of things that they seen instead of being helping with the solution. They became part of the problem.
Yeah.
So and then it's true. We do see things now. We're like it's normal.
We don't have that sense of community.
Mm-mm.
That's absent from our situation. We able to sit up there and see
No compassion.
These people who are doing this, that, and the other thing, and then at the most is what they'll get out of us is just
shaking the head. Right. Like that's
all you can do. Where when we look back over here,
they had to go get involved.
First of all, they told somebody to begin with because that's how they got found out in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The thing was going on between the two people, but then there's people around who they didn't just say, that's a shame that them people was in number. They went up there and told somebody.
Right.
And then they was all involved in the judgment process. So, we can look to that and think about the fact that we really should have more of this kind of a community mindset where we don't just sit by and idly watch things go on without trying to fix the problem or help people who need help or right these wrongs that that people are doing to the best of our ability. We're not the police. We can't sit up here and do so much, but there's something to be done. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts or comments about it?
I'm sorry, Ari's going crazy.
She ain't bothering me.
She going crazy.
All right, so if we go down to 17, verse 17, if a man takes the life of any human being, he shall surely be put to death. The one who takes the life of an animal shall make it good, life for life. If a man injures his neighbor, just as he has done, so shall it be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Just as he has injured a man, so it shall be inflicted on him. So we look at this and we see, this idea here, retribution. Talks about if you take the life of an animal, one of your animals should be taken care of. You injure your neighbor, right? That same injury that you put on your neighbor, you can get that injury done back to you. Retribution. Eye for an eye. You could request your neighbor's eye to be taken out if he took your eye out.
Okay.
Or tooth or whatever, so on and so forth. Okay, so when you think about that, and you think about Yeshua, what Yeshua has to say, what does Yeshua say about this whole idea of retribution? Matthew chapter 5, 38. Matthew 5, 38 through 42. It says, you have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him too. Give to him that asks thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. So when we look at that, and we look at what we just seen over in Leviticus 24, how do we reconcile the two in terms of Leviticus 24, where it says, if a man injures his neighbor, just as he is done, so shall it be done to him. And then if we see over in where Yeshua says that if somebody, any man will sue thee in the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also.
So what was the question?
I'm trying to figure out how we kind of reconcile the two of these things.
We're not getting involved in the first place. The reconciling of taking the eye for the eye, the tooth for a tooth.
Yeah.
I say try not to get into conflict. Don't have to get beat down.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't gotta always be looking for conflict in order for it
that's true too.
For it to come. The Torah, when we look at the Torah gives us, the Torah is about equity, it's about justice. And within the commands is giving you the ability to to find retribution. If somebody comes and destroys your things, then according to Torah, you're able to have your things restored to you. Somebody injures you physically, according to Torah, you're able to have that justice and have that thing done back to the other person. But I guess when we look at what Yeshua is saying here, it's not as if he's nullifying the scriptures, which he can't do. He can't nullify the scriptures only because he said he wasn't going to do it. He said that he didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets. So, we can't say that that's what's going on when we look at what Yeshua has to say in Matthew chapter 5. But what we are saying here is when you think about the idea, if, for instance, somebody plucks your eye out, it don't really help you. It doesn't help you to be able to see better if you pluck their eye out in response.
It don't give you your vision back.
No, it doesn't. It
just
not
punishes the other person.
It's just like a punitive thing. It doesn't restore anything to you. Maybe yourself, you feel some kind of way inside. Or okay, good. Then they got to. Somebody Africa, Hiskey do something bad to Africa, she might be happy that he got a beating behind it. because she got her little justice. But really, it doesn't do anything necessarily for Africa. So when we look at what Yeshua, what Yeshua is doing, he's showing us. I would say he's showing us kind of a selflessness, as a where he brings up if somebody sues you at the law to take away that coat. Well, here, just take whatever. You can have my coat and you can have my cloak. Whatever. I don't really care about these things or whatever. Whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, I ain't gonna sit up here and I'll go 2 miles. What's the big deal? All right, that's like me seeing somebody downtown that I know. I'm driving. I see them downtown waiting for the bus, and I bring them. Hop in. I bring them to the bus stop.
Should have brought them to
I could just take them home. I could just take them where they going.
Well, if you was going that way, it depends on how far
you going that way.
How far they live.
Yeshua said, that's what I'm talking about.
Go all the way out.
Yeshua said them
Greensburg.
They compelled you to go a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, if he compelled,
he said go 2
retribution. Yeah.
He said go 2 though.
Yeah.
So I think that's the same thing. Is where I ain't gonna just bring you back to where Pat gonna bring you to.
You remember
I'm just going to take
it took
you
like 2 hours to get home, taking somebody home from work that one time. Just getting yourself into.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
He came like 2 hours late
because of traffic. It was terrible. But I just was just doing.
You did go out your way, and you don't know what you get yourself into until you get there. Because I've been in that situation. Like, what? I wasn't planning on doing all this. But at the end of the day, you feel good about it after it's over.
I think that's what is. I think that's what the point of what Yeshua is. We don't always have to seek to gain what is owed to us. Even though an eye is owed to you, you don't necessarily have to seek to gain that thing that's owed to you.
I think what is it? Is that grace? Have grace. I was thinking about the woman who came to him that was caught in act of adultery, and he could have been like, she obviously had some sin in her because he told her to go and sin no more. So some people say that there wasn't 2 witnesses, that saw it or whatever. She had some kind of sin in her. He said, go and sin no more.
I mean, we all do.
He did.
Just like everybody that was standing there when he said, whoever without sin cast the first stone.
Yep.
So therefore, everybody, all of us have that. We want to act like we righteous, but we all have sin. Regardless of how we look at it. But it's the grace is that just because you have a little sin and somebody have a greater sin doesn't make it sin. He said, whoever break any of my laws, you broke all of them, even if you just broke one.
It's your heart. It's the heart.
Exactly.
That your heart had this evilness in it.
And just like he forgives us as well, that's how I look at it. I'm going to always look at it like that.
You should be forgiven
to other people.
So, I totally agree that especially if you're in the faith, we all have the same master, we all have the same God, we all, what I mean? You should be able to
forgive one another.
Forgive, as opposed
to bygones be bygones.
Yeah, as opposed to what his words are. As opposed to
holding on
to things and holding it over.
Exactly.
Someone holding that over.
And like you said, if we're walking in we're walking with the same God, then why are we separating ourselves from one another? And that's forgiveness, that's grace, that's saying that the word you say, bygones be bygones.
And I think that's a perfect example of what we see. Yeshua is not nullifying the fact that you're owed something according to the law.
Punitive.
He's not destroying the fact that you're owed something, but what he's saying is that you're able to just give that over and just kind of not necessarily
acknowledge it.
Go after that which is owed to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that we don't do. But you did this, so and you owe me that.
Exactly.
But you should have said. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so let's go over to. Let's look at a few things in the 7th chapter of John.
So people do want their
they want their just due.
And not just due is not walking in the light of the Lord.
They want their just due. You give me what you owe me.
Right.
With their eyes and their hands and their whatever else.
You owe me an eyeball. Okay, so we looked before, and Teresa brought up the idea that this menorah was this big old thing. It wasn't something that was just some little thing that you could carry. It was a huge thing. It was something that was visible. And when we look at John chapter 7, Yeshua was going around doing all the things that he was doing. And at this point, it got to the place where, these Pharisees and whatnot was ready to kill him because, he was going around, doing his thing. We look, and I don't want to read the whole chapter, but I will look at some of these things here. Just starting with verse 1. After these things, Yeshua walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry or around the Jews because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the feast of the Jews, the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that does anything in secret, and he himself seeks to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. For neither did his brethren believe in him. Then Yeshua said to them, My time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world cannot hate you, but me it hates, because I testify of it that the works thereof are evil. Go you up unto this feast. I go not up yet unto this feast, for my time is not yet come. When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee. So we're looking at the disciples talking to Yeshua about going up, to keep the feast. And Yeshua, not saying that he doesn't want to keep the feast, but saying that he don't want to get overtaken by these people who seek to kill him because of the fact that he's walking around shining his light. We look later, we'll see that he goes anyway secretly. But he does it just that. He does it in a kind of a stealth kind of a way because of the fact that, he still has to do all the things that he has to do. But I think the point is that, Yeshua was doing the will of Yahweh, making himself known publicly to this point. So much so, he created a little buzz for himself, where these people who were again obviously working against him. You look further down, people sitting up here talking about you have a demon. In verse 19, did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you carried out the law? Why do you seek to kill me? The crowd answers, you have a demon. These people are crazy. But they're doing all of these things because of the fact that Yeshua, was actively going around and, doing all these miraculous things, performing miracles, healing the sick, causing the lame and things to walk, and so on and so forth. He was out there doing the will of Yahweh, regardless of, the adversities that was around. And so, when we look at, the example that Yeshua gives, he had a hard task to perform, and yet he still did it. He, in spite of the fact that the mainstream was saying that he was a demon, the mainstream was calling him a blasphemer, right? All of the so-called powers that be were against him. If you was part of the Pharisees, you might secretly go and see what Yeshua had to say. You might secretly go and follow Yeshua, but you wouldn't dare let the other Pharisees know that you was doing it, right? Because the mainstream was against what Yeshua was doing. When we think about where we are today, as we follow after Yeshua, it's against the grain. It's against what the mainstream is doing. We sit up here and we do what we feel the scriptures is actually saying to do, and we got people who say they follow after the Bible, and yet they want to sit up here and criticize what we're doing.
I had that this week.
But
I'll tell you about it later.
So this is what it looks like to be the light.
And I mean, when I look at verse 5, and it says, "For not even his brothers were believing in him." Mm-hmm. And I like the New American Standard because it puts it in the right tense. Mm-hmm. Like they're talking to him, and in their present mind, they're talking to him, but they're not believing in him. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? The Jews, or it says here, because the Jews were seeking to kill him, his brothers are talking about him going up to the feast, and in their own minds, they're not believing in him. So it's kind of like, they're bearing witness with the people who want to kill him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they're talking to him about going up, and they already know what's going to happen, mm-hmm. or what could possibly potentially happen if he went up. That, he'd be in some trouble. And he's the master teacher, and he got his own brothers not believing.
Yeah.
And Yeshua sees straight through it and says, "My time is not yet at hand." Mm-hmm. But your time is always opportune. The world can't hate you because you're just like them. How can they hate one of their own kind?
So I think that, something for us to learn when we look at this to me, when we look at this, the world, right? If you're doing what Yeshua is calling for you to do, the world don't want that. Mainstream not looking at what you're doing and giving you a thumbs up for doing it. And you following after Yeshua. The powers that be wasn't big up in Yeshua for going around, and they was criticizing him. They was criticizing him. Let's see, verse 21. Yeshua answered them, I did one deed, and you all marvel. For this reason, Moses has given you circumcision, not because it is from Moses, but from the fathers. And on the Sabbath, you circumcise a man. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses will not be broken, are you angry with me because I made an entire man well on the Sabbath? Yeshua is healing the sick on the Sabbath, but you want to sit up here and criticize Yeshua
For breaking the Sabbath.
Because
he's healing something.
But yet, they'll circumcise on the Sabbath to pacify the law of Yahweh. So when you look at what the people were doing, right, they're sitting up here and they're going according to the letter of the law and not looking at what's behind the letter, the spirit of the law. But they want to sit up here and call a healing of these sick people, causing lame man to walk, and treat that as if it's a sin. Because now that he can walk, he can carry his little pillow that he used to lay on when he couldn't move off of prior.
I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that we're dealing with human beings. People.
I don't know if they was losing sight that they were dealing with human beings. They were losing sight of what the Sabbath was and what the law was. It's like it was their law. And if they did anything against what they believed, even though they were walking with the law, they just didn't see it. Even us, just like you said, when you do right, even if you're doing right, and we're dealing with human beings every day, and people still criticize you for doing right, but if you do wrong, everybody will praise you, and give you glory. Like, oh yeah, you see how she talked to that person? But and they're all right with that. But if you talk nice, they're like, oh yeah, they was a wuss. So it's just like almost the same thing.
It's just it's sad to me that people could look at somebody getting made whole as a curse. I
don't think it was a curse because it was made whole. It was on the day they were being made whole. But it being on that day caused them to overlook
the fact
that they was made whole.
Right, exactly.
They didn't even see what happened based on when you did it.
Right, exactly.
Or how you did it. There's a certain, you have
it was
6 days of the week.
Thursday.
That you could have been made whole.
Right.
Exactly. And then one day of the week, you can't be made whole. You gotta wait till the next day. Like, I see that as like, one of my children are sick and it's the Sabbath day. I want to take them to the hospital. I'm going to be like, oh, you're going to wait until it's over.
Hold on. You got a couple of more.
You can't
hours.
breathe. All right, just let's wait a couple more. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta take care of the fact that if you're gonna have a Shabbat, you gotta have somebody who's alive to keep it. If you don't have somebody who's alive to keep it, then what's the point of having a Shabbat?
Look at me made whole. I mean, this person needs healing.
Well, they just had no thoughts on it. They just thought about the rigidity of it being
The religious
a rule.
thing of the rule. That's why people get caught.
People get caught up in that. Yeah.
And that was the main thing with the Pharisees. When you look at the Pharisees, is that they have this religious spirit about them where everything has to be thus and so. It can't be outside the box. It got to be inside this little container that where I'm able to see and understand all of these things, and it got to be just like that. It can't be no other way. And then Yeshua comes along.
He breaks the mold.
And, the mold is forever broken. Revealing to the world that there is this kind of a switch, paradigm shift, as to where now we get into how this thing is supposed to be from the beginning, in terms of the spirit. The law is actually causing us to walk in a certain way, right? The thing that it didn't matter how many laws you could sit up here and do and know. You knowing those laws, statutes, and commandments, you knowing those things, being able to recite them, being able to know what they are, was never able to change you internally. Was never able to change your heart. And if I'm somebody who cares about a person and their soul, if I look and see this person that I've seen my whole life, I've seen this person sitting down here their whole life, sitting on that mat. And here comes Yeshua, comes along and tells them to get up and walk.
Should be rejoicing.
Why am I looking at the fact that it's Shabbat and you're carrying that thing, as opposed to look at the fact that I've never seen you walk my whole life?
Right.
You've always been sitting down there, not able to walk.
Yeah.
The whole time I know you your whole life.
Right.
Why am I caught up on the fact of what day it is? Right.
Amen. Because that's like when I say one of my girlfriends, I didn't know she can stand and walk. I caught her in the laundry room. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know you could. And why are you trapped in that chair like that? So the thing is, it's not the thought about, I forgot about the chair. It was this excitement that I could just see you stand. Not knowing that you just was totally crippled. And the same with them people, when they seen them walking around, I would have said, is that the same person?
They weren't even thinking about that.
No.
They didn't have that person's well-being at all.
They just thought about the day. Like, this is what? Just go sit back down on that mat.
I don't care if he healed you. You don't carry that map. Don't move it until tomorrow.
Just know that you heal and walking it the next day.
All right.
I think it's, they was confused on how he even became educated.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
they
that?
didn't trust it. They didn't trust him because they didn't see him. They all went to the little yeshiva together. They all went to the little their little biblical schools and all those things together. So they know all of the people who should know the Torah and study, and then all of the rabbis. Where did he study at? Who was his teacher? How did he get to be like that?
Are they scared of him and his knowledge?
Who ordained you?
Yeah.
And no matter how many times he said his father, they wasn't hearing it. Their ears were definitely closed.
Yeah. But again, we see in Yeshua showing us what the power of the Spirit does.
Mm.
The power of the Spirit took these 12 regular guys,
Amen.
just some regular old guys who just was going around, just living regular life.
Regular lives, not even like rich people.
Nah, just some regular old guys from the bottom. And they turned the whole world around just from that Spirit being inside them.
Hallelujah.
He didn't even pick the Pharisees, the ones that was the learned ones.
He could have picked the 12 best students.
How come wasn't no Pharisees out of the 12 disciples?
Because they was too learned.
They
had their own law.
They wasn't teachable.
He didn't take them ones. He just took some regular old guys. They even found them at the temple or nothing. Just they was over there fishing, walking down fishing.
Doing wrong things, everything.
A tax collector.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who was wicked. Now,
Peter,
say he was wicked.
Always with that mouth, body like mine. Always
tell somebody something.
But that's what the Spirit did. The Spirit takes you to another place.
Mm-hmm.
And that Spirit shows you the way.
Yes.
That Spirit is that light to your path. Where these people, they put all of their trust in their letters,
own knowledge,
the letters that they get, and all of the academia. Which there's nothing wrong with those things.
But those things are going. That head knowledge isn't going to transform.
No, it don't transform. It don't change.
Mm-mm. That's how you have the theologians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They know the Bible from the front to the back in the original languages.
And they still lost.
They still
that's the same thing he told Nicodemus. He has all this education, you still know not.
You go back into your mother's womb. Like you can't even understand.
You mean you want me to get back in there?
Right. So, it's the same thing. That's why he didn't choose them, because they need to restart all over again.
They need to be broken down so they could be built back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so going down further, let's look at 37 of chapter 7, John 7:37. In the last day, the great day of the feast, Yeshua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirsts, let him come unto me and drink. He that believes on me, as the scripture says, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living waters. But this spake he of the Spirit, which they that believe on him should receive. For the Holy Spirit was not yet given, because the Yeshua was not yet glorified. So we see Yeshua here begins to speak about the Spirit. He begins to speak about the new covenant. He begins to speak about this idea of coming and drinking from him, coming unto him and believing on him, and as a result of that, his belly shall flow rivers of living water. When I see those verses, it always causes me to think about what I see over in, we look in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, 1 through 5. Isaiah 55, 1 through 5. It says, Ho, every one that thirsts, come you to the waters, and he that have no money, come you, here, go get him. You that have no money, come you buy and eat. You don't got no money, but come and buy and eat. Yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfies not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat you that which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness. Incline your ear, and come unto me, hear, and your soul shall live. And I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and commander to the people. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not, and nations that knew not thee shall run unto thee, because of Yahweh the Elohim, and for the Holy One of Israel, for he hath glorified thee. So we see over here in Isaiah where it's speaking of this whole idea of, being thirsty and drinking and coming to a place, that has these things, these gifts to give for free. These expensive things, these valuable things that actually cost money, but you getting them for free. They're being bought for you, not by you, right? You're receiving these things as wine and as milk, but you're getting it without money, without price. These things that are satisfying your soul. So when I see Yeshua over here in John chapter 7, talking about if you're thirsty, come unto me and drink. It caused me to think about the fact that we, just like his disciples, just like these ones to, they have all of these things that they have, not because of their ability to gain them necessarily, but because of the Spirit of Yahweh. This rivers of living water, right? When we think about the idea of water, this thing that's essential to life, this thing that's essential to life. When we believe in Yeshua, when we come to Yeshua through faith, the result of that is those things that which are essential for life now flow out from us. Right? If we're thirsty, come to me and drink. If you need water, you can go to Yeshua and receive water. But not only are you able to come to Yeshua and receive that which is necessary for life, but you are then also able to give water to others, to give this life-sustaining substance to others, to share it with others.
I was thinking about just the flowing. I was about to look at that word in my thing. Talking about the basket. I was talking to the kids this week about the basket.
What basket?
The tet. The tet and like the container. Yeah. If you contain the water, how it gets muddy.
Yeah.
And we was talking about like, I guess the connection between contained water and mud. Y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. Or y'all gonna embarrass me and say y'all don't remember? Which is what they do. But just like how flowing water is a different. Okay, I got it again. All right. I almost tore out a page. But like how flowing water is, it doesn't contain all those toxins and the mud and all that. And it's living and how,
it's moving.
It's moving. Active. It's not in a container.
It's not stagnant.
It's not stagnant. And
it's not bound.
Same thing with our light. Like if we have light, it's not going to be under a bushel. It's not going to be contained in something. It's going to go out and do that which it was meant to do. It's
free flowing.
It's free flowing. So when we are walking around, we're not hiding our light. We're not putting ourselves in containers, but we're allowing our lights to shine, and we're allowing that water, that life that we have in us to flow from us.
How are you supposed to put yourself in a container?
Well, whenever somebody starts talking to you about something, you act like, you know what I mean? You don't really know about Yeshua. You try to fit in with them. You try to hide who you are,
Is that how you put yourself in a container?
Yeah, that's how you put yourself in a container.
Okay, very good. Okay, is anybody
We
else
was talking about that?
Anybody else have any thoughts
Yes.
about this idea of Yeshua and the new covenant that he's speaking about without naming it, in terms of the spirit inside of you, causing you to have life and share life as well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if no one has any thoughts or comments,
Christian.
Well, when you were talking about letting your light shine, that reminded me of the song "Let It Shine."
Let this little light of mine. Oh, that song. Okay.
Okay. So with that being said, I don't think I have anything else to say about these things right now. I mean, I could, but I don't want to say anything else. All right, so